Shalom and welcome to Yeshiva B'nai Noach. I'm Tom Abrona. This is First Hebrew Primer course, and we are doing an additional video for chapter 18. So again, it's kind of out of order in the list of videos, but I did put a note on the chapter 18 previous videos to look for this one. So this is the chapter 18 participles practice, and the reason I'm doing this is twofold or severalfold actually. One is the live class that I have kind of struggled with this chapter more than the others, so I'm not sure exactly why, but I thought, well, if they're struggling with it, you might be also, so I wanted to put this together. I did this for the class. It seemed to help a little bit anyway. So these are going to be practice exercises, and what we're going to be doing is all of the exercises for exercise 1, for the exercise 1 video that you previously did, but we'll go through with explanations. Hopefully that'll help you get some practice recognizing and working with the participles. In addition to that, I have some information from a video on YouTube, and I'll give you the information about that when we get to it. So you've seen this before. I want to just present it to you again. I've revised it a little bit, but so the ways that you identify the participle, you're looking at your Hebrew sentence, and one of the ways, and I say first, although I don't think this ends up being the best way, but it is another way to help you identify what kind of participle you're dealing with. So first of all, you have to identify the participle and where it is in the sentence. So if it is the first word in the sentence, and there may be, of course, more than one, but if it's the first word, it's usually the subject. It doesn't have to be. It could also be part of a word pair, or it could be a verb, but usually it's the subject. If it's the second word in the sentence, usually it's either a verb or an adjective. So you're going to follow the rules of adjectives, especially if the noun that it follows is definite, then and this has a definite marker in front of it, you know it's an adjective. If it follows a noun and there's no other verb in the sentence, probably it's the verb. Okay, so but again, these are not conclusive. These are just ideas to begin with. If the participle is towards the end of the sentence, it's most likely the direct object of the sentence. So these are some possible tools that you can use to identify the participle. That's what we're talking about here. How to identify the participle. Second, and this is probably the better one, is if the participle follows a verb, if it follows a verb, so you recognize there's the verb of the sentence, and you find a participle following it, it's most likely the direct object, but it could be the subject. Remember, in Hebrew, the subject can follow the verb, or it again could be the first word of a word pair. So there's three things you can kind of identify there. If it follows a noun, this is generally a little easier to identify. If it follows a noun, it's most likely an adjective, but only if it matches in gender, number, and definiteness. If it doesn't match, then it's most likely the verb, if it's at the beginning of a sentence following a noun. Okay, so again, just process of elimination. We'll get lots of practice to see all of this in action. If it precedes a noun, it's most likely a word pair. So you have two nouns in a row, just as in any Hebrew sentence, you see two nouns in a row, you can possibly think of the first noun as the first word of a word pair. Okay, so if it precedes a noun, it's most likely a word pair. Doesn't have to be, but most likely it is. Okay? And then the last thing on this list are the three uses. What is a participle used for? And you saw that in the last thing we looked at. but it's used as an adjective. In that case, the participle follows the noun it modifies and agrees in gender, number, and definiteness. If you identify it as an adjective, what you're going to do is add ing generally to the verb ending. Or you can make it a relative clause, an adjectival phrase, by adding who is verbing. Who is verbing? Okay. And if it is a relative clause, and this is one of the things that confuse some of my students in the live class, if it has who is in front of it, if you use this and determine that's necessary, it eliminates it as the verb, even though it kind of sounds like it's the verb. The man who is walking to the store, the who is walking to the store is really an adjective identifying the man. You still need a verb in that sentence. The man who is walking to the store tripped and fell. But again, who is eliminates that participle from being the verb of the sentence. So that gets a little confusing because it sounds like the man who is walking to the store is who is walking to the store is a verb. But really, it's just an adjective identifying who the man is. Okay, and when we look at the YouTube video sections that I'll be talking about here, you'll get a better idea of what that means in Hebrew, and it's really a powerful understanding. So I'm anxious to get there. So it could be an adjective. It could also be the verb of the sentence. And if there's any other verb in the sentence, it most likely is not the verb of the sentence, okay? But if that's the only verb in the sentence that seems to need a verb, then it could be that. If it's acting as the verb, as the main verb of the sentence, the subject usually precedes it, doesn't have to, usually precedes it. And the participle itself does not take the definite article. If it has a hey in front of it, a ha, then it definitely is not the verb of the sentence. So, but if you identify it as the verb of the sentence, then typically this is the way you would translate it. The subject of the sentence is, was, am, or are, or you add your helper tense. So the subject of the sentence is verbing, or was verbing, or they are verbing. Okay, so that's how you would translate it, typically if it is the verb. If it's the noun, the participle stands alone, functions as the noun, meaning it can have a definite article in front of it, or it can be indefinite. As a noun, it can be the subject of the sentence. It can be the object of the sentence, the direct object or the object. It can be part of a relative clause, or it can be a word pair, the first word in a word pair. So, how do you translate it then? Generally speaking, you can use one who is walking. One who is walking. Or if it's, you can also translate, you don't have to say who is walking, you can say a walker, and add the ER ending. Okay, so the one who is watching, or you could say the watcher, or the one who watches. Different ways to translate it, but technically it's this form here, is watching, but you can make more sense of it in the translation by possibly using these verb forms rather than is watching. Okay, and also we talked about this before in the lesson, chapter 18. A participle oftentimes no longer even takes a verb form. It just is a representative of what one who judges is a judge, one who guards is a guard, one who watches is a watchman. So you could say, instead of saying the one who is watching, you could simply say the watchman. All right. But remember, the one who is watching, this is not, who is watching is not the verb of the sentence. It is an adjectival phrase or a relative clause that modifies who the one is, gives you information about who the subject is. All right, so that's the main thing to look for. All right, we're going to get lots of practice. So these are excerpts now. The next few slides are excerpts from a video on YouTube from Dr. Russell T. Fuller. I wasn't sure about using the actual YouTube video, but I highly recommend that you watch the video. Now, the video itself is an hour and 45 minutes long. It's about 55 minutes of information like this, and about another 55 minutes or 50 minutes of practice. And the practice is all scripture, but it's a great video to watch. So here's the basic information from that video, and I just found it so enlightening, especially as much as I love Hebrew and as much as I know you love Hebrew. This is going to give you another idea of why Hebrew is so special. So one of the things he talks about is the difference between a participle and a noun. In English and in many other languages, a participle is more considered a noun than a verb. Okay? In Hebrew, you're going to find out it's the other way around. So, the noun is a word with inherent meaning, but without tense or aspect. Tense is of course, past, present, future. Aspect would be, ongoing action, completed action, that kind of thing. So a noun, again, doesn't have those two things. A participle does, but a noun doesn't. Nor does a noun, generally speaking, have any other characteristics of a verb. A participle does. The participle, therefore, is a verbal noun acting as an adjective. It just means it modifies something. It gives you more information about something, the subject. Okay, but it is a verbal noun. It's not a noun or a nominative verb, a noun verb. It's a verbal noun. That's an important distinction. We'll talk about that. The verbal and adjectival characteristics makes the participle a very descriptive noun. Okay, it functions in the sentence as it would in English as a noun, but it retains its verbal characteristics, and we'll talk about that. So, as such, the participle is used for description, for painting a picture, and for depicting activities or states that are habitual, like occupations or professions. And this is an important distinction. The example that he gives in terms of this, he talks about the cupbearer in the story of Joseph in prison with Joseph. The cupbearer, the word for cupbearer, is in a participle form, and it literally means one who pours the drink. Okay, so that gives you more information rather than just cupbearer. It's the one who pours the drink. Participles are often found in vivid contexts, such as dreams and visions. So when you come across a dream or vision in Torah, you're going to find participles. It's always going to be there. Any kind of poetry in Torah is going to have participles. It's not going to all be participles, but it's going to have participles as a part of the vivid descriptions that are necessary when you're describing a dream or a vision or poetry. Okay? But it's tenseless. In other words, it's ongoing action. It's not in the past, it's not in the present necessarily, nor is it in the future. It's ongoing. So that's an important distinction. So you'll find that again when the speaker or writer desires colorful details. So the participle is the ultimate adjective with its verbal characteristics. Okay, so that's kind of gives you the feeling of what you're expressing with the participle. You're expressing a description of something that gives you much more information because it includes a verb, it includes action, okay, but it's ongoing action. A participle in modern Hebrew is considered present tense. That's not true in biblical Hebrew. A participle is tenseless. You get the tense from the rest of the sentence, but the participle itself does not contain past, present, future tense. Okay? And he concludes then by saying, Dr. Fuller, who's doing this YouTube video, Dr. Fuller concludes on the definition of a participle by saying the participle, therefore, is a concrete verbal noun, an adjective, indicating the agent or doer of the activity, an efficient part of speech, maximizing description and implying verbal action at some time, past, present, or future. For example, the participle, the man who sacrifices, implies that the man has, is, or will sacrifice in an ongoing way. It's not a one and done. The participle is common in direct speech, even today in modern Semitic languages, and he gives some examples of Arabic usage of the participle, and in poetry, which is similar to direct speech in the Bible, and in narratives when vivid details are desired. But here's the key. The participle is a verbal noun, not a nominal verb. And this is key, and I've mentioned this way back at the beginning of this course. One of the beautiful things about Hebrew, and one of the things that sets it apart, and when I say Hebrew, we're talking about the Semitic languages. Arabic has some of the same qualities. But the beautiful thing about Hebrew is that it is a verbal language. It's a language of action. It matters more what the person is doing than who the person is. And there's a huge teaching that you can develop around that. It's the idea that God can use anyone. It's not the person. The person doesn't matter. What matters is what this person does that this person is told to do, or doesn't do what this person is told not to do, etc. So Hebrew, as the language of God, what God cares about are your actions, not as much as who you are. Okay? But the Hebrew language expresses this by being verbal. It's a verbal language. So the participle is a verbal noun, not a noun verb. Important distinction. And then one other distinction we'll get to here. This again shows off the power of the Hebrew language. Again, it's an incredible thought. And again, I give this is all from Dr. Fuller from his YouTube video. Highly recommend that you look it up, that you watch it. A lot more information than I'm giving you. But he says, finally, biblical Hebrew does not have progressive tenses as English and New Testament Greek have. Okay, progressive tense would be he is walking. When we think of that in English, we call it a passive verb. Is walking is passive. as opposed to he walks, which is active. In Hebrew, that is not true. In Hebrew, the to be verb, haya, is an active verb. It has to do with existence, who the essence of someone is. And that's why you don't see the present tense in Hebrew. Because why? Why don't you see the present tense in Hebrew? Do you remember? It's because this can be confused with the name of God, because God uses this phrase in the future tense, but still using the to be verb. And the yad he vav he can be in one form of the present tense, could be spelled out that way. So we avoid using the to be tense, the to be verb in Hebrew, and we translate it as is, am, are, were. Okay. In English, we think of that as passive. This is the name of God. God is not passive. God is active. This is an active verb, is. It has to do with existence, with being. So the example he gives from Exodus 3:1, Moshe haya ro'eh. And the way it's generally translated is, now Moses was shepherding the flock of his father-in-law Jethro at Tzon Yitro Chitanu, father-in-law Jethro. Okay, so shepherding, or is shepherding, or I mean, so this idea of the shepherding, or actually watching, however this is translated, but this is a participial verb. So Moses was shepherding, was tending the flock. Okay, but this is an adjective. It's describing who Moses is. Moses was someone who shepherds. That's his essence. That's what made him so great, is he was a shepherd. That's his identity. It's not just a passive verb. This is an active explanation of who Moses is, who the subject is. It's active. It is not passive. So as you translate these things, and if you're translating in English, you're going to use English terms, and that's okay. So yeah, you'll translate. Now Moses was shepherding the flock of his father-in-law. All right, fine, but you should know when you read this, and this is why translations don't work. But when you read this in the Hebrew, you know that this is not just a passive verb. It's an active explanation of who Moses was. Moses existed as, his reason for being was as a shepherd. Okay? And then we'll get to another section here as well, but one who performed the duties of priesting. It says the priest of Midian. Okay? Right here. I'm sorry, it was highlighted. So Kohen Midian. Kohen, we translate as priest, right? That's a noun, priest. He was the priest of Midian. We don't even think of this as a verb anymore. It's one of the participles that have become a noun, but originally had a verbal form. So originally, this is the one who performed the duties of priesting, the priest of Midian. Okay? So recognize that important distinction. So he gives some other examples, and again, you need to go watch his video because there are lots of these kind of examples there. But another thing to show how to translate or how to think of a participle, he uses Isaiah 6, verses 1 through 2. In the year that King Uzziah died, So Bishana, Motz, Hamelech, the year that King Uzziah died, I beheld. What did I beheld? What did I behold? Et gives you the direct object then. What did he behold? He beheld Adonai, my Lord or my sovereign, Yoshev al Kiseh. And that's translated seated on a high and lofty throne. Okay, that's poetic. It's nice in that translation. But it means so much more than that. It means that my Lord was in essence on the throne. That's where he belonged. That's where God was, and it's his status. It's who he was on that throne. That is an important description of my Lord. It's not just the idea of somebody was sitting on a throne. No, somebody who always sat on a throne. This person exists as a person who sits on a throne. Okay, so again, the idea of the participle, it's much more powerful than it is in any other language. And going on here, also the seraphim, the seraphs, stood, omadim, stood in attendance. Participle, stood, or the seraphims who were standing. Okay, that idea then is that's their essence. They are people they are beings, created beings who stand in attendance. That's their essence. That's who they are. That's a part of who we recognize them to be. They are people who stand in attendance to Hashem. So again, the power of the participle, just so incredible to really get a grasp on that. Okay. So this is going to be a long video, but you can certainly break it up into pieces so that the first piece we just finished just as an introduction. And I would definitely advise you or encourage you to watch that, maybe even a few times. Watch Fuller's video. It's hard, an hour and 50 minutes is a lot of time, and he oftentimes is very difficult to listen to. But what he has to say is exciting, and certainly the examples at the end of the video are very much worth watching. All right, so now what we're going to do, excuse me, is start on the exercises. These are the exercises from chapter 18, page 187. Exercise 2. And this was a matching exercise where all I want to do is go through this and explain how we make the translation that was given to you by the author. So, Osei Shalom, the author translated as maker or doer of peace. So, Osei is the participle. And you know that because it has the cholim in the second position, or it could be a cholim vav in the second position. Tells you immediately this is a participle. You know that the verb asa is to do or make. So literally you can translate this as one who makes peace, but because you have two nouns together, you want to begin with the assumption that this is a word pair. So you're going to retranslate this slightly to give you of peace out of this. So a one who is making of peace doesn't quite work. So a maker of or a doer of peace works here. Gives you the word pair form. Okay. Translation. Next one. Shomrei Yisrael. Okay, another word pair. So your participle is shomrei, You know that because here's the participle indicator right here. The O and the A are two indicators, but the O is the primary one because this verb can change or vowel can change. O is the primary. So you know this is an active participle because of that. So shamar, to guard, um, and then Israel. Again, you have a word pair. A tells you this vowel ending of the tsereyad guarantees you that this is a word pair because this is the word pair ending for masculine plural. So the guardians, so the ones who guard, they are the guardians of, put in your word pair word there, of Israel. Okay. Acharon boneh. All right. So remember that if it's, so there's your word pair is here, boneh. Okay. You know that acharon is a noun and following a noun, often the second word, begin thinking, all right, maybe that's the verb of the sentence. If it is, you're going to try putting the helper tense in the verbing. So Aaron is building. Works perfectly. So that's the verb of the sentence. Aaron is building. Okay, you can't say Aaron who is building. The who eliminates that as the verb. It makes it a relative clause. You just have to be Aaron, helper tense, and verb. Aaron is building. Okay, next one. Katuv batorah. All right. Their translation, it is written. And how do you know that that's right? Well, katav, here's your participle, but it's not, you don't see the O, you see the oo in the third position. Ooh, that tells you that this is an active participle, a passive participle. Ooh, passive participle. So going over here to this information, if you have a passive participle, use it is before the verb. So it is written. Okay, you have to, again, you can't use the ing ending. Oftentimes you'll make this a past tense form of the verb. So it is written, or use it, I'm sorry, en or er ending. It is written in the Torah. Okay, so again, identify where your participle is. Okay, um, if it's the first word, excuse me, um, it could be the subject of the sentence, or it could be the first word in a word pair. It is written in the Torah. Okay, past or passive tense for that one. So number 5 in that exercise 2, raglaim holchot. Okay, so you have a noun here, feet, raglaim, and here's your participle. It's active. You've got the O in the second position. Okay, so halach, to walk or walked or went, or go, walk or go. So again, it's in the second position. You can't tell for sure that it's an adjective because it's not definite in either place. Um, if it were ha reglim, then there would be a hey here in front of the verb, but it's not. But you can pretty much tell. There's no other. Um, there's, again, you're matching with what they have to say. So you can see that you have walking feet. Okay, walking feet. Now, again, if you didn't have this matching, you'd have to look in the context of the sentence because this could be translated a different way. It could be translated um, as the feet are walking, but there's, so you can't tell just from the phrase, but you do know here. And also the other clue that it's an adjective is it has the adjectival ending of oat, matching the feminine ending of feet, even though it looks like a masculine ending. Feet is feminine. Okay. So again, walking feet. Next one. Einayim. So you have eyes. And then you have petuchot. Petuchot. So this is, this is passive. You don't have an O here. You don't have the O in the second position, but you do have oo in the third position. Okay. It's a little confusing because you're used to seeing the oo as a vav with a dagesh in it, but this is also oo. So you recognize this then immediately as a passive participle. Passive participle. Okay. So it's not the eyes are opened, it's the opened eyes. Opened eyes, because again, you have that connection ot ending, matching the feminine. Eyes are feminine, even though it has the eem ending. I think we talked about this before. Generally speaking, pairs of body parts are feminine. Feet, eyes, ears. So just be aware of that, even though it has oftentimes masculine plural endings. Excuse me. All right, next one. Yotzei, ha-machane. All right, there's your participle in the first position. So could be a subject, could be a verb, could be a part of a word pair, because you have two nouns together. So the ones who are going out of the camp. Okay. So you put your yatsa is the verb. Okay, so that means to go out, and then identify this. Try this as a word pair, and it does work. And of course, if you're matching, it makes it easy. So the ones who are going out of the camp. Okay. Noten HaTorah. Noten, you have again the participle, active, because O is in the second position. The giver, so the one who gives, that's a giver, the giver of the Torah. Okay, again, you're matching with this, but otherwise you would look in the context of the sentence to make sure that this is a word pair form. Okay. All right. Next, number 9. Again, we're still on exercise 2, page 187. Ha'avadim, ha'olim. So your noun is ha'avadim, the slaves. So this is the subject. So now you have to decide. Your participle is here, ha'olim. Now, is this the verb? Could be in the second position. Often second word is the verb. But you know one thing for sure. A verb will never have the definite marker in front of it. If it has the definite marker, it eliminates it as the verb and makes it an adjective, modifying the noun that went before it that is also definite. So the slaves who are going up. All right. So again, this can be confusing. Some might look at this and say that this is the verb of the sentence, the slaves who are going up. But this who, this relative clause marker eliminates that as the verb of the sentence. So if this were in a sentence, you'd have to have another verb here. Who are going up simply modifies the slaves. Which slaves? Well, the slaves who are going up, as opposed to the slaves who are going down. All right. So this is an adjective modifying or describing the noun, the subject before it. Okay, next one. Ha nefesh ha notenet. Ha notenet. Okay, so again, same situation. Ha nefesh is your noun, the soul. Okay, ha notenet, natan is to give. So this is your participle. So the soul who is giving, or the giving soul. Better translated, the giving soul. But this whole thing is going to be perhaps the subject of a sentence. You're still needing to find another verb to make it a sentence. Next one, number 11. Yordei hayam. Okay. Yarad is to go down, to descend. So your participle, you identified your participle in the first position. So it could be the subject, could be other things, but let's look at that first. But most likely this is going to be a noun form, a noun form. So if it's in a noun form, you're going to say the one who, helper tense, the one who is verbing. Okay. So, and you know this is plural. So this also tells you what? The A tells you that this is the first word of a word pair. So that's your second clue that it is the noun, it doesn't have anything to do with anything else but a noun. So the ones who are going down. Now here's where you have to use some common sense in the translation. Literally, it's the ones who are going down of the sea. But that doesn't make sense, so you change that to the sea. The ones who are going down to the sea. Right? And that's your subject, or could be the whole phrase. The ones who are going down to the sea descended the mountain. Okay? Habonim yivnu, next sentence. So here's your verb, future tense. He will. They, ye'u, they will build. And that's your verb. So you know that this is not the verb, and it's in the first position, so it's probably the subject. So the ones who are building will build. Or, as you found this in the connection, in the putting them together, you found the ones who are building can also be the builders. The builders will build. Okay. All right, last four of exercise 2, again, page 187. This is 13 through 16. Ha-ro'eh et ha-chol. Immediately, you identify your participle. Ha-ro'eh. It's got the ha in front of it, so you immediately discount it as a verb. It can only be a noun. Okay? Ha-ro'eh. So if it's a noun, you're going to try translating it with the one who is verbing. So the one who is ra'ah, seeing. The one who is seeing. And what are they seeing? The one who is seeing everything. Now, this is not a complete sentence. There is no verb here. This is not the verb. The relative clause eliminates it as the verb. The one who is seeing everything could be the subject of the sentence, could be the object of the sentence. You don't know without seeing the sentence. But again, you've matched it with O, and you recognize it. But I want you to keep seeing why it's translated the way it is. Okay. Next one. Yishvei Bethlehem. So your noun Bethlehem is the second word of the sentence. Okay, there's no verb, so maybe this could be the verb, except that you notice this. A definitely eliminates this as the verb because it is the word pair form marker for masculine plural. So it's very nice when you have these markers that enable you to see that. So the ones who are sitting, the ones who are settling, the ones who are residing of Bethlehem. So what is one who resides? It's a resident. A resident is one who resides. So you can translate this as the residents of Bethlehem. Next one. Ovrei ha-gevul. So your participle right there. First person, first position. So it could be the subject. But then you notice this. So it's definitely a noun. So it's the ones who are crossing over, the ones who are passing over, the ones who are crossing over, the ones who are crossing the gavul, the border. Okay, easy peasy. Recognize your participle. What position is it in the sentence? What words are around it? And process of elimination or whatever makes sense, you're going to begin to do the translation. Okay. Last one, ha-mate, ha-molech. So where's your participle? Right here, molech. It's in the second position, so it could be a verb because you have the tribe is probably the subject. But then you notice this, ha absolutely cannot be the verb. Must be, it follows a noun. It matches the noun in gender, in definiteness, in number. So it's an adjective. So it's the ones who rule tribe, or the ruling tribe. The ruling tribe. Okay. All right, exercise 3. And again, this is going to be a long video, so do it in sections if you need to, or come back to it as often as you need to. So exercise 3 now, page 188. And we are translating. So, hu boneh bayit me'avanim. Okay. So he is in the first position, probably the subject. That makes this participle most likely the verb. Does that work? If it's the verb, you're going to use the subject is, was, am, are. Okay. Verbing. So he is building. Okay, that works. So he is building. What is he building? He's building a house from stones. Next one. Ha-bonim banu et ha-machane. All right. In the first position is your participle. Again, you recognize it. It's got the O, but it also has the ha, so you absolutely know this isn't the verb of the sentence. So it makes it the subject most likely. So the ones who are building, the ones who are building, who is that? That's the builders. So the builders, and here's your verb, built, past tense. What did they build? They built the camp. Okay. Now, just to throw this out there again to give you an idea of translation. If this is past tense and you wanted to translate this as the one who is, am, are, were, remember this is tenseless. So you go with whatever tense you see in the context of the sentence. So you could translate this as the ones who were building built the camp. Or if you just say the builders, that eliminates the need to deal with the tense at all. Okay? Number 2, Rivka osa ma'asim ra'im. So Rebecca, first position, noun, probably the subject. Ose could be the verb. There's no other verb here in the sentence, so we begin by assuming this is the verb. So Rivka is, put in your helper tense, is a doer. Ose, do or make, is a doer of evil evil deeds. Okay, so that works as the verb. That's fine. And again, this whole subject, Rebecca, who is one who is a doer, and that gives you your word pair form of evil deeds. Next, Ha'ish ha'oseh tov hu tzadik. All right, the man, noun, first position, subject. Okay. Now, here's the question, and this is another one that threw the live class. So you this kind of looks like it could be the verb, doesn't it? The man, but this eliminates it as the verb. So it's going to be something that is an adjective identifying who the man is. The man, so adjective, who, helper tense, verbing. So the man who is doing good. That whole thing is part of the phrase, the relative clause. The man who is doing good. That's simply describing the man. The man who is doing good. And I think I put this comma here because that was in the book, but it really, well, I guess it's a beginning clause, so the comma is fine. But the man who is doing good, you really don't need to translate the who here. The man who is doing good is righteous. The man who is doing good is righteous. Okay, so here's your verb then is going to be is. It's going to be the to be verb, is righteous. Okay. Exercise 3, number 3. Goy gadol yored mitzrayimah. Goy gadol, a large nation. A large nation. So there's your subject. Here's your participle in essentially the second position, because this whole thing is one. It's the subject. So yored, most likely the verb. And let's see if it works. So a large nation is going down to or toward Egypt. And that does work. So this is the verb of the sentence. All right. Second sentence in that number 3. Ha yordim halchu ka'asher amru. All right, so you recognize this is your participle in the first position. So probably it's a noun, probably it's the subject. So let's try it out. And again, because you have the ha in front of it, you absolutely know that it is. So if we're using the noun, we're going with the one who, helper tense, the one who is verbing. Okay. So here again, this is plural. So it's the ones who are going down. And here's the verb of the sentence. They went, past tense, the ones who are going down. So you could say the ones who were going down, I suppose. But the ones who are going down, these translations come from the book. But the ones who are going down went kasher when they said. Okay. Number 4. Acharon noten mincha le'imo. So Aaron, first position, probably the subject. So that would make this probably the verb. So Aaron is giving. What is he giving? He's giving a mincha, a present, a gift, to his mother. Next one. Ha-notech, ha-noten et ha-kesef yoshev beinenu. Okay, so now we're looking, we see, all right, ha-noten, participle, ha in front of it, first position, so definitely this is the subject. So the one who is giving is the subject. What is the one who is giving? The one who is giving the money. And here's your verb. So participle. In this case, it's acting as the verb. There's no other verb in the sentence. So the one who is giving the money is residing. But again, you can just translate that to resides among us. Among us. Okay. Number 5. Ha-matot ha-ele shotim mayim rabim. So we identify the participle. First of all, we look through the sentence. This is the only one that looks like a participle, and it is a participle. You've got the verbal form to drink. The last letter dropped off. You've got the im, which means that it's in a masculine form. But at any rate, so we begin. So here it is in the third position, which depending on what else we have, this could be the verb of the sentence because there's no other verb here. So it most likely is. So let's begin translating. So we have ha'ele, these, and we know this goes with this because you've got the ha in front of it, two nouns together. So these tribes are drinking. And yep, that works. So it must be the verb of the sentence. These tribes are drinking a lot of water. Okay. Or much water. We really don't have a word pair form here. But at any rate, a lot of water is a better translation than much water. All right, next one. Last one in exercise 3. Ha'ish, excuse me, hashote gam ochel. So we have ha'ish, the man, first position, probably the subject. Ha tells you that your participle here, this is your participle, shote, This tells you that this has to be an adjective because it's matching with the definite article. So it's the man who is drinking, or the drinking man. Also eating. So you need that helper verb here. So your verb of the sentence is neither one of these. You have a predicate adjective here, but at any rate, so you have is the man, the drinking man is also eating. All right? Okay, moving on. Exercise 5. Again, we're going to locate the participle. We're looking through here. This is the only one that has the participle form. It's the verb sit, settle, or reside. It's in the second position. So most likely it's the verb. Let's find out. So Hatzadik is the righteous. Now, and this is, if you didn't remember, this could be a little confusing. Remember that you can turn an adjective into a noun by adding the word one to it. So the tells you that this can't be an adjective, it has to be a noun. So the righteous one is residing, yep, that works, in the camp. Next, ha-mate ha-yoshev ba-machane yivnei mizbeach. Hamate, again, you have this in the first position. It's a noun, probably the subject. So the tribe. This is your participle. In the second position could be the verb, except that it has the ha in front of it. So you definitely know this is an adjective modifying or describing the tribe. So the tribe, which, because who doesn't really work with that, the tribe which is residing. The tribe which is residing. But again, this isn't the verb. The which is just like the who, it makes this a relative clause. The tribe which is residing. This is modifying the tribe. The tribe which is residing in the camp. Okay. Here's your verb in the future tense. Will build and alter. Still on number 1. Ha-yoshvim banu machanot. So yeshav, sit, settle, reside, is your participle. Ha tells you it's a noun, so it's the ones who are residing, or the residents. Banu, past tense, built. There's your verb. What did they build? They built camps. Yashvei ha-machane mi-mate acharon. So here's your participle. Yoshvei. This does double duty, this dagish, so that could be confusing, but it's yosh ve. So this is both the O vowel and the dagish for the shin. But again, in the second position, the O tells you that this is a participle. So yeshav, again, sit, settle, reside. First position, probably subject. So again, here's your other clue. So you know this is plural because you've got the yosheve, you've got the a ending. Okay, so this is part of a word pair. So here you have the residents of the camp. All of that makes your whole subject. The residents of the camp. So there's still no vowel. From the tribe of Aaron. Still no vowel. So you need that to be vowel put in there. So the residents of the camp are from the tribe of Aaron. All right, exercise 5, number 2. Hu yored im ha-mishpacha mitzrayma. He, subject, probably verb here, the participle. He is going down with the family to Egypt. Ha-mishpacha, ha-yoredet, or yoredet, accent on a segelet is always going to be above the first segelet. Ha-yoredet, ha-yoredet, rather. Yashva, ba-mitzrayma. B'mitzrayim. Okay, so the family can't be the verb. It's got the ha in front of it. So the family who is going down, here's your verb, resided in Egypt. Number 2, exercise 5. Mishpachot yordot el Mitzrayim. Again, first word, subject, noun, families. Families, no other verb. So this is probably the verb of the sentence. So families are going down to Egypt. That works. Next one. Ha yordim mimishpachat David. So now you have going down in the first position. Probably now this is the subject, or it's a part of a word pair. Okay, so if it's a noun, the one who. So the ones, as it's plural, the ones who are going down from the family of David. And that works. So this is your subject, the ones who are going down. I'm sorry, and I think I missed this, but the ones who are going down are, because this is a complete sentence. So you know you've got to have a verb. The ones who are going down are from the family of David. Okay, number 3, HaTorah Ketuva. All right, so now your second word is your participle. There's no O here. Oops, but wait, there's an oo. So that tells you it is passive. So you're going to use it is, or is. It is the subject, but is before the verb. Okay, and you're going to make this more passive. So the Torah is written. You wouldn't say is writing, because again, this is not an active participle. So the Torah is written. So the Torah isn't doing the writing. The writing is being done to the Torah. So that makes it passive. Ma'aseh Rivka Katuv Batorah. So here's your subject in the first position, the deed of Rebecca. So this is your passive tense again, is written in the law. So the deeds of Rebecca aren't doing the writing. The deeds of Rebecca are essentially receiving the writing. Okay? Deed of Rebekah is written in the law. In the second half of number 3, Maaseh Aharon Ketuvim Batorah. So here we have, again, similar to the last sentence, the deeds of Aaron. Again, we have the passive tense of the participle. So the deeds of Aaron are written in the law or in the Torah. Ha-ma'asim asuyim uvatorah ketuvim. So now we have two participles in here, but they're both passive. Both passive. Remember this this can get confusing, but that is the same as this. In the third position, makes it the passive participle. Okay, so the deeds are done and are written in the Torah, in the law. All right, number 4. Hu ro'eh et ha'even be'enayim petuchot. So, he, subject, first participle, ro'eh, in the second position, probably the verb. Let's find out. He is seeing. That works. Et, what is he seeing? Ha'evan, the stone. And this can, remember that the b can be in, on, with, about. I mean, you can translate the bet in many, many different ways. But at any rate, so what makes the most sense here is he is seeing the stone with eyes that are open, or open eyes. Again, the eyes are not acting here. The open is not an active participle, it's a passive participle with open eyes. And ha-ro'eh lekach et ha-even. So now we have an active participle with the ha in front of it in the first position. So probably this is the subject. The one who is seeing, or the one who sees. Lekach took the stone. Second half of number 4. Ein ha-enayim ro'ot et ha-eben. So here's our participle. It's in the third or possibly second position if this whole phrase here is a subject. Let's find out. So if this is in the second position, could be the verb of the sentence. So we'll see. Ein is simply a negator. So the eyes are not seeing the stone. Again, participle acting as the verb, but in the passive tense. I'm sorry, not the passive tense, in the active tense. The eyes are seeing, or not seeing. Okay, last one here. Einei ha'ish ro'ot et ha'even. Again, could be the verb of the sentence in that position. Let's find out. So we have the eyes, word pair form, the eyes of the man are seeing the stone. And that works. So both of these, the verb Notice, though, again, you can have it with the vav or without the vav or with the vav. Same word, same participle. Number 5. Tzadik noten mayim labone. So tzaddik looks like an adjective in the first place, so probably not. So a righteous man, well, again, your book translates it as the righteous man. I'm not sure why it's the, but I would probably go with a righteous man or a righteous one. Again, you don't know, you're assuming man here, but a righteous one, literally. A righteous one is giving water to the builder. Okay, so um, I'm not sure about the righteous man here, but again, depending on context. So, but at any rate, a righteous one or the righteous man is giving. All right, last one here, the next one here. Ha mayim netunim la bone. All right, so we have two participles here, one active or one passive, one active. So we begin with the subject, probably, yeah, the water. So that makes this possibly the passive verb. So the water is given to the builder, or the one who is building. Again, passive participle, the one who's building. And as we're doing all of these things, I mostly want you to recognize what parts of speech they are and how to see it. But also keep in the back of the mind the things that you learned from Dr. Fuller earlier on, that this is more than just is given. I mean, this is something, this is an essence. This is something that is being done. It's more active than it is in English. The idea is more active. All right, let's finish this off. So, second part of 5. Notnei ha-mayim tzadikim. So now we have the participle in the first position, probably the subject. So the givers, the ones who are giving, or the givers, here's your clue that you have a word pair. The ones who are giving, or the givers of the water. So you still need a verb. Put in your past, your to be verb here. The givers of the water are righteous. Hachli natun labone. Two participles here, one passive, one active. So in the first position, probably the subject, the vessel is given to the builder. Good. Last sentences from exercise 5. Ha shofet im regel bepiv rather. Okay, so we have two participles in a row. They're both active. So in the first position, probably the subject. Second position, probably the verb. Let's find out. So hashofet, this tells you this is a noun, not a verb. So the ones who are judging, that would be the judge. And then you have the verb, is judging with a foot in his mouth. That's got to be tough. But notice here again. So you see the two, one has to be the subject or the noun anyway, because it's got the ha. The other could be the verb because it doesn't have the ha in front of it. So we definitely know this isn't a modifier because it would have the ha. Can't be part of a word pair because it's in the second position. So, etc. It's a process of elimination, but it just makes sense. If you start out thinking first word subject, second word verb, then you're probably going to be right. La shoftim ragalim gedulot. Okay, so now we have something else here that that chapter. I don't know if it was this chapter, one of the chapters covered already, but it's the first time we're seeing it, so just be aware. This looks like it. First of all, first position, probably this is the subject, so we have shoftim, which would be judges. All right, so we see the law here, and we think, all right, two for the judges, to the judges, there are big feet, maybe, but then if you remember your section that talked about the lamed, oftentimes in front of uh, your noun can be translated as have. So the judges have big feet. So have essentially becomes the verb of the sentence. So the judges have big feet. Okay. Second half of number 6. Ha shofet omed al regel achat. All right. So ha, the first word, probably subject. Ha makes it a noun, so most likely the subject. So the judge, again, the one who is judging, the judge is standing. So that works on one foot. Shofet ha mate katav be raglu. All right, so again, first position, participle, probably subject, could be a word pair, but and it is a word pair. The only thing that makes sense because you have another verb here. So and this isn't a verb. So the judge of the tribe wrote with his foot. All right. I hope that helped kind of solidify the idea of participle, and I also hope you got a better idea of the spirit of the participle as far as Hebrew is concerned, and the power of the Hebrew language, once again, as a verbal language, a language of action. And the participle just reinforces that idea. All right, so that's chapter 18 on participles practice, and we'll see you back here for more for Yeshiva B'nai Noach. I'm Tom Averna. Shalom.